Hello, my spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And today, again, the great guests continue because I have from my favorite haunted city, Savannah, Georgia, Mike and Ty. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And Mike, before you talk about your business and everything, because they do ghost tours among other things. One of the things I find lovely about the Savannah, and my spooky friends, if you've never been to Savannah, you gotta go. It was voted one of the most haunted cities in America. Although California is starting to take over, and I don't know why, but
Yes, we run a paranormal and interactive paranormal walking ghost tour here in Savannah called Spirit Xperiences LLC. You know, we worked for other companies here in Savannah for years now. And we decided we were going to go off our own. Not that we're saying that anybody was doing anything wrong. In fact, the last company we worked with, we're still good friends with. We get along real well. But we just wanted to do our own thing. What we found is, as you know, and again, nothing wrong with anything anybody else does, is, you know, they'd want a tour at 8 o'clock and then one at 10 o'clock. So we were having to rush the 8 o'clock people through to make sure we can make it to the 10 o'clock tour. And they would have upwards to 30 people, which is the legal limit in Savannah for a tour, 30 guests on a tour. And with what we do, that just didn't work out for us. We found that around 15 people is perfect for the kind of tour we lead. You know, we do share the history, we share the folklore, just like you get on any other tour. But what we like to do is actually take time to conduct many paranormal investigations at many of our stops. So with that being said, you know, we like to have that extra time. We promote a 2-hour tour, but we've yet to do one 2 hours. Last night we did one, it was 3 hours. So we don't like to have any kind of time constraint. Mainly,
Let our guests put it on.
Yes. If the guests need to hurry up, of course, guests come first. We say our guests is our priority. But what we like to do is, you know, share the history, share the folklore, but actually let people have some experiences with the spirits that's here in Savannah, and which are very numerous. I don't know how California's overtaken us, so I'm interested to know about that. But Savannah is well known. We say we're a city built on our dead, and you're never really far from a corpse. And that's just not something we just say out of anywhere. You visit, you know for a fact how many unmarked cemeteries are in Savannah. And just everywhere you go is going, this person's buried right here in the middle of the squares we have here. So Savannah is a very active city.
It really is.
Absolutely. And Mike, again, I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
I'm so sorry. You can call me Steve. So Mike, one of the things is, this is interesting. Before we get into like a little bit telling us some interesting tales and a little bit about, you know, some of your paranormal investigations and everything, I was looking you up on your website, and this is great. So you were a former reverend, and you're a classically trained philosopher. Tell my spooky friends. I mean, that's interesting. I mean,
yes, yeah. I'm classically trained. I went to University of Illinois at Springfield, and kind of do a little boasting here, but my professor, Peter Baltic, there, my advisor, he is actually the head of the American Philosophical Association for years. I don't know if he currently is, but I know he has for years. So that was the person I learned under. And so I really enjoyed philosophy. Still love it. My wife don't like the fact that I like to argue so much, but you know.
He's so logical with it, though, too. It's like, I just want to win.
Which helps out with, you know, paranormal investigations. Let's look at this logically first. You know, let's eliminate all the logical possibilities and then see what we have left over.
Absolutely.
But also with Reverend, I was with the United Methodist Church for 8 years. I did leave the church, so being a pastor is not what I was really called to do. If people don't know about that, I like more of the theology side of things than I do the actual pastoring side of things. And pastoring's, and to all any pastors listening, they have an extremely difficult job. They really do. It's 24/7. There's no breaks, and I got burned out really quick. Is what happened. And so,
Yeah.
so I left the church, in fact, I left my faith for a while too, but that's something we'll get into when we share our
Yeah.
story a little bit more.
Yeah,
Lost my
absolutely.
faith, and actually what brought me back to my faith was paranormal occurrences.
Mm,
So that's something we could go into further a little later if you like.
absolutely. And hi, Aaron.
Can you hear me now?
Hey.
Yay!
Yes.
Hello.
Just did what everybody does. I just push buttons until something worked, So,
Uh,
Well, we didn't get to meet. I'm Steve,
Hi.
and this is Ty.
nice to meet you.
No, I'm Mike.
Sorry about that. I don't know.
I actually called Mike Steve Aaron. Like, what's going on here? Come on.
It's fine.
I got a little creeped out since that's my father's name.
Interesting.
Guys, I've been interviewing a lot of mediums and a lot of psychics. So maybe they're starting to get in my head. So maybe I'm like, woo.
Maybe I need to play therapist for me.
So anyway, Aaron, we're just kind of talking a little bit about with Mike and Ty, kind of a little bit of their backgrounds. We're going to get into a little bit more of that. But Ty, you're a clairvoyant. So could you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Sure. When I was born very prematurely, and I was actually baptized and given my last rites all at birth. So it seems the veil never really closed for me. One of my first memories is living in Tucson, Arizona. My grandparents raised me, going down for a nap. Bright sunshine, about 11, probably noon, but seeing shadow people come towards me. Not one or two, but dozens of them. I always knew stuff about my family. When we traveled, I know, we was seeing family in other states I've never met before, but I knew the home. I knew the layout. I always knew little stuff that always kind of freaked my grandparents out a little bit and my other aunts and uncles I was raised with. And then when I got older, a little bit young, I should say, an adolescent, my step-grandfather actually went to Mexico quite often, and I would travel with him with my grandmother.
Mm.
And I would learn how to do limpias, cleansings, which is a form of cleansing, candle work, root working with him. And I even saw possessions. So yeah, my job there was just to sit there and do the rosary. But as I got older, I participated a little bit more with the aspect of everything. So I always felt like I always had something near me. I tend to see stuff or smell stuff. Mostly for me, it's smell and taste. A lot of spirits will bring me a smell or an odd taste. But
That's
when
really
Mike and I got together, some crazy things did happen with us
yeah.
at the beginning.
So let's talk about those crazy things. Well, this is interesting. Like, since Ty, you're a clairvoyant, did you like, Mike is going to come into my life and I'm going to, does anything like that? Or I'm kind of curious.
No.
That's more psychic.
That's more.
That's more psychic, right?
Honestly, I was married prior to Mike, and my first husband passed away, which was, for me, that was the first year after he passed away. That was the first time everything around me was silent. There was no smells, no taste. I actually felt odd. I was literally alone, like completely alone. When I met Mike, that was just me being on the internet looking for somebody.
We don't have to tell them we met on the internet.
Well, that's okay.
So
we don't have to get into
all
that.
dangerous.
That's okay.
Okay.
But I mean, a lot of
there you
people do
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
And I met him, and there was something about him that attracted me. He's very outspoken, very opinionated, and I love that he was confident in himself. Now, at the time, he was a plumber. Plumbers don't scare me. I can talk to lawyers. Anybody doesn't scare me. The only ones that do scare me is his actual degree. People that are philosophers have always frightened me because they just can argue and argue and argue. They're not arguing.
Right.
They're really debating.
Right. Yeah.
But you never feel heard. So that was kind of intimidating for me. But there was something about me that just was drawn to him. It still is.
I love
very
it.
much drawn to my husband.
I love it. Hey, Aaron, do you have any questions? I know you came in late. Do you have any quick questions
that's just
for Mike and
interesting.
Ty?
I just find that very interesting that you were saying that, like the difference between, medium, clairvoyant, psychic. I think a lot of people don't understand the differences. I know I didn't for the longest time. And then also culturally, we're kind of very different in that aspect because, like you were saying, down in Mexico, like they have a really different belief in that, kind of stuff. Whereas here, somebody could be possessed maybe, and they're like, oh, they're psychotic or they're this, and you know what I mean? Because we kind of look at things a little differently than other cultures per se. Would you agree to that?
Definitely. Oh, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So, I mean, it wasn't a question per se. It was just more like, finding out a little more in depth, I suppose, because even now, like, I don't understand all of the differences, when somebody says, oh, I'm a medium and a clairvoyant. I'm like, okay, I don't really understand myself. I know I can sense things, but I don't say that I'm any of them because I'm not sure, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So for me, a psychic is somebody that could tell the future, tell the present, and tell the past. I believe your future can always be changed. So I mean, I necessarily don't always agree with that. A medium is somebody that could actually speak to the spirits and call forth a loved one's spirit. Those for me are very tricky. I mean, if a loved one's spirit wants to show up, they can. But I can't necessarily call a specific spirit to show up. And a clairvoyant to me is somebody that is just sensitive to the spirit world. And they can interact with the spirits if the spirits choose to interact with them. It's more of, rolling the dice. You never know what you're going to get or who you're going to get or who wants to show up to you. And the spirits I come in contact on a daily basis with the tour company, we have actually built a friendship with these spirits. And they have known us and we built a trust. And just like you build human relationships, you can build that relationship and they will come forward. But psychics. I believe there are true psychics out there and I believe there are true mediums out there. I don't think they're as often or as
prevalent as it may appear to be, I guess is what. There are true ones out there, but, just as with anything, you have to use your best judgment.
Have a lot of discernment.
Yeah, for me personally, I just find it really odd to take anybody's money for those gifts. If you truly have a gift like that and somebody comes to you wanting to communicate to a loved one and wanting to say their lost thoughts or apologize for something, I just think it's kind of cringy to get paid for that. Yeah. My personal opinion.
Which, it may sound hypocritical being, we run a ghost tour. We want people to have these experiences.
Sure.
These spirits out here. That's more of a commercial thing. I mean, it's a walking tour. You're taking this tour. And we do private investigations. And those are just what it is. They're private and we don't discuss them. That's just between us and that family or situation. And we do not charge them. Not a single day. Like Tal likes to tell them, that they invite us over. They say, well, what do we need to pay you guys? We'll go, nothing at all. But she says, but, if you want to have a coffee pot going or something like that, that would be great.
I mean, and I agree with you, like, kind of on the fence about it, because I think that, yes, perhaps offer, stuff. But then on the same side of it, if you have a skill that you're able to offer and just like with any trade, make a little bit of a living off of, I don't. It just depends what your intention and motive would be. You know what I mean? If you're like, I just want money, then that's not quite the thing. But if you're like, I need to make a living, but, I have all these other difficulties. However, I'm very skilled and good at this, then maybe with the right intention.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I have personally known psychics that have actually charged like $500.
You better know everything. I want the lottery numbers for that kind of money.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I think it's a good clientele and charging a fair fee.
Yeah.
But the ones I know are like ridiculously expensive.
Well, it was a case of not too long ago, I won't go into any details, but someone got in contact with us about an issue they were having. And they asked if we could come. We was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. They said, well, how much are you going to charge? We said, oh, not a penny. He said, well, I've been in touch with 2 other paranormal investigators, and they said it was going to be upwards of $5,000 to come and investigate.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't ask him who it was or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that sort of thing, we have to be careful. Yes, I understand there are psychics out there that run a business, and you go to them
Right.
knowing you're going to pay for this service.
Yes.
That's one thing. But, I'm sure with you guys being in the same field that we're in here, I'm sure you get those all the time. Hey, let me give you a free psychic reading. Have you received those messages? Yeah. And then it's like, well, I'll give you a free psychic reading if you make this donation of $100 or something.
Right.
That's kind of scammy, that.
And again, the intentions aren't right, and so it's just not right.
Yeah.
And that is very cringy.
Yes.
Absolutely. So one of the things I thought was really interesting, Mike, this is off your website, so just correct me if I'm wrong, but you put something on here that fascinated me, and it said, under your get to know Mike and Ty, it said, people ask me, I'm quoting, I think this is from you, unless somebody else put it on there, and you have to tell me, but people ask me, do you believe in the paranormal? And my reply is, no. I know that the paranormal exists. I know this because of numerous personal experiences that I have witnessed over the course of my life. And I thought that was really interesting. So explain that. You don't believe it, but you do believe it? I mean,
well, no. I'm sorry. I guess I'm not explaining. Somebody asked me, do I believe in the paranormal? I go, no. Yeah. I know the paranormal exists. It's not a belief. Belief is in something that you do not know, but you hope it's true.
Right.
Where knowing is, no, I don't have to believe in it because it's true. I don't have to believe that I'm speaking with you right now. I know I'm speaking with you right now. And so that's what I mean by that, saying that, I don't believe in the paranormal. I know the paranormal exists, and it's a very real thing. No belief system is needed for me. It's as tangible as you and I right now to me.
Exactly. And there's a difference that I think people, they treat it like a belief. And I'm like, you're right. No, it exists. And Erin is from Patriot Paranormal. She's a paranormal investigator herself and her team. And, they've had, and Erin, you can speak on it, numerous experiences. So again, it's hard for people to understand that, belief. Yeah. What's your belief versus this is the truth? This actually is. So I think that's really interesting. Erin, has anybody come to you and your team to be like, what's your belief in this? And, how do you talk about it a little bit? Because I'm just fascinated by it.
And, for a lot of people, and I like to call them normies, don't go around chasing, spirits and stuff. But they, I think it's just hard to accept that there could be something, because then you go into all kinds of things within life, all kinds of questions. And I think for some people that creates fear. And so when they get fear-based, then they tend to, shy away from the hard questions, because it does make you confront stuff like that. Because why are some spirits that come back really happy and, playing tricks, but other spirits are growling and really literally want to strangle you, And so it opens up such a wide door of possibilities and questions and da-da-da. So I think a lot of people get very, not scared, but, it just, like I said, it opens up a big door, a big Pandora's box of, oh my gosh, I am in the same boat though, and when I started, it was just, I believed, but by now years in, I'm like, yeah, like the stuff is not real, and it's like and of course everybody has different perspectives, because that was my experience. So somebody else's experience was like, oh, that's not what I heard. And I'm like, well, and then that brings in the whole other side of it, which is, stuff that you cannot portray to other people, even though it's recorded. Like when you have an experience, you know, like we did an investigation about a month or so ago, and I got really angry. And I just don't, you know, I don't get angry, but I started getting really pissed off. And I had to excuse myself and make myself leave the area. But you couldn't, even though you saw me kind of getting a bit pissy and I was rolling my eyes and like whatever, I could feel it. But trying to convey that to another person, you know what I mean? And so like, this is real. Like that I wasn't just getting attitude for no reason. Like it really was starting to affect me, and that was real. But somebody else might be like, well, it was 3 a.m, you're tired, so blah, 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 you know? And so there's a lot of different perspectives, but if that answers anyways, sort of the question.
Yeah.
Well,
so yeah, go ahead, Mike. No, I was just going to say, with you being a reverend, I mean, that's a big thing, right?
Well,
it's real. Former reverend. Excuse me. Former reverend being, you know, belief versus it's real, right? Yeah, and so, you know, you can kind of, I don't know if you can talk about that if you'd like to, you know, how that people coming up to you, right?
Well,
and
do ask, you know, me being former pastor, well, how is it you believe in these spirits in this manner? However, I was in the Methodist Church, and the founders of Methodism, John and Charles Wesley, grew up in a home in England that literally had a poltergeist that they named Old Jeffrey. They would say they saw Old Jeffrey move things, they hear knocks, they have things missing. When these happen, they'd be, oh, that's Old Jeffrey up to his old tricks. So the founders of Methodism believed in spirits as we believe in, or know their spirits, I guess we should say now. But so, you know, that's for the denomination I came out of. Now, she's a good Catholic girl, and we all know that there's a lot of Catholic priests out there who are paranormal investigators, who do know this is real, who do these things. So I think we run into some people of maybe other denominations within that thought process that are taught that all this stuff's just evil, stay away from it. We run into it with guests on our tours. We'll have people that just don't want to participate at all, which is perfectly fine. You know, we want to ask though, I mean, you read our website. It's like, did you read before you signed up for the tour? But, you know, we advertise, this is what we're going to do, you know? So, but so that's kind of how I feel about it, is that it is in no contradiction to my belief system at all. That spirits are just a part of that. And the way, and I've done a lot of thinking about it, you know, some people would claim that, oh, well, the Bible says absent a body is present with God. However, Jesus, I believe, I interpret it this way. It was said that we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven until we let go of this world. And so I feel there's so many spirits, and, you know, not saying they're good, not saying they're bad, but they're hanging on to something here for whatever reason. And until if they can let go of that, they can't cross over.
Like the movie Ghost. It's like the TV show.
Right. Don't say it. Y'all watch the show Ghost?
Yes. Yeah.
You ever seen the...
Yes.
So he's about to say, yeah, to get sucked off. But in that, you know, and that's kind of something that Aaron was kind of speaking on. You know, people who are here, like I said, it's not that they're good or bad that they're here, but we both think, we agree on this, that however you were in life, that's how you're going to be on the other side. If you were a good person in life, you're going to be a good person on the other side. If you were a mean SOB in life, you're going to be a mean SOB on the other side.
You're a prankster, you're going to be a prankster.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so, you know, you keep your personality. And like I said, I don't think it's a good or evil thing that these people hadn't passed on yet. There's just something in this world they need to let go of. And once they do that, the crossover can finally happen, which is something we actually do when we go in to help people. First, we discover if we're dealing with a human spirit or if we're dealing with something else. And if it's a human spirit, we do try to have a regular conversation like we're talking with you right now and explain to them that it's okay to let go and go on over to the other side. Now, it doesn't happen quite as much as we'd like it to, but sometimes you can tell that spirit did let go. Yeah.
Now, this is something I think really interests me, Mike, is being a former pastor, reverend. Did people know you were in the paranormal? Like, did your congregation know that? Did you make it present?
Well, okay. Well, at that time, I really wasn't so much into it as I am now. This came through meeting this lovely lady right here, the things that we're into now. But at the time, though, no, I did have 2 different parishioners over the course of the 8 years that did have some trouble with some demonic activity that we did have to take care of in their homes. So I did have that experience before meeting Ty.
And you had some childhood experiences.
And some childhood experiences, but I don't recall. It's just my mother would tell me about them. You know, I had a childhood friend that I called Bobby. And, you know, this one like 2 years old, 3 years old. I don't recall this at all. But she said I had a childhood friend that I called Bobby. When we moved out of that house that we were in, she just thought, you know, Brady Bunch, little Bobby on Brady Bunch, maybe I made this imaginary friend. But after we had moved out of that house, they actually came to find out that somebody who escaped Nazi Germany moved into that house and actually hung themselves in the attic of that house. And his name was Robert. So, yeah. So, you know, again, I don't recall, but my mom would tell me this, and she'd tell me other things like this. And so I don't, you know, it wasn't really until Ty and I got together that some undeniable things happened, and that got us together going in. That's how we finally wound up doing these investigations and doing tours and
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll get into that a little bit about when you were first married and your experiences, but this is just a weird question from me. Like, why do just Catholic priests do exorcism and no one else can? Like why couldn't a Lutheran or Methodist or okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's not true.
Okay.
Like, some non-denominational churches, they do it all the time, but I kind of question some of the validity of some of those exorcisms. However, my personal belief is we're Christians, we follow Christ. And Christ said, I give you the power to cast out demons. He didn't say you need to be a priest. He said, if you believe in me, I give you that power. And he says, in my name, you can cast out demons. In fact, you have the case that not just of his apostles, but disciples went out. And they went out and they came back and they said they healed the sick. They were casting out demons. And they reported, they said, and there's some demons we couldn't get rid of. And Jesus said, well, some of them, the only way to get rid of them was through fasting and prayer. And so, but these are just regular disciples, not his close apostles, that he sent out to cast out demons and who were casting out demons. So he gave further instruction on how to continue to cast out these demons. So I don't think it's, just for the Catholics to do. Yeah. I think it's for all believers to do.
Right.
Now, but we all receive gifts, right? So within that, so are some maybe a little bit better at it than others? Yes, because we all have different gifts. We all make up this body of Christ. And so we all have different gifts. And so, maybe somebody has the gift of being able to tell demons just get out, and somebody else, they may be able to do it, but it just takes a lot more work.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, because I noticed on the website you're a demonologist, which is fascinating. And Aaron, I don't know, I don't think we've ever spoken about any really evil that you encountered, but have you encountered evil on any of your, I'm using evil, the generic word, on any of your
as a
investigations?
Generic. I mean, no, I've never come across anything that I would consider demonic, thankfully, because, I don't know how I'd react to that. Probably tuck tail and run and then call you guys, but because obviously I don't want to encounter anything like that, but no, I've even in places that were supposedly demonic, I've never encountered that. Now, a person that was evil in life and then was carried on through death, yes, I was growled at, which was very, and I knew at the time because I felt it was very intentional and very, very angry, and you could feel it and then you could hear it. And, but I heard it in my ear, and then it was caught on the tape and you could hear the growl. I mean, as plain as day, just like you and I are sitting here talking. And that I could tell was extremely, but just an evil person in life, just not a kind person anyways. And so that kind of was like, whoa, okay. But again, not demonic, just a real jerk. And he wanted to let every woman in that place know that was his, that was how he rolled. But thankfully, no, nothing demonic. And I'm very grateful for that, really. Because, I'm also a Christian, and I do try to, always have God with me wherever I am. And but there are times that you're tired and you go into a place and you don't feel as protected, and so yeah, I'm like, okay, I need some protection because I feel kind of weak right now, and I do not want to encounter anything that I couldn't personally handle. And I'm definitely not a person that would be like, oh yeah, no problem, whatever. No. I'm like, I can tell when I'm a little run down or feeling weak and would be susceptible to something. So I thankfully haven't ever had to deal with anything on that real. And if I was invited, if I was invited to a place that they're like, oh yeah, no, we've run into this demon, like, sure, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm good. I think we'll leave that to the professionals.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad to hear you say that sort of thing because, YouTube and some of these, TV personalities would have you believe there's a demon behind every corner and every haunted location. And they're extremely rare, especially in that kind of manifestation that they're wanting to portray them as. Do they exist?
Yeah,
yes, they do exist. Yes, that is a thing. However, it's not as prevalent as people would want you to believe. It just it gets you clicked, right? So.
Of course, just exactly. Back to the whole trade thing, it's just, whatever your skill is, and if that's your thing, then that's your thing, and I don't knock people for it, everybody's going to do what they're going to do, but yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So I just find that fascinating. Like you said, oh, there's a demon. Like it's like
thank God there's not really one every
makes
corner.
Everyone,
a lot of us wouldn't do this.
Yeah, and it makes yeah, absolutely, and it makes everyone who's serious and trying to help. We get the brunt of sure, there's a demon. Sure, there's ghosts. Sure, you guys are faking it, and I'm like, man, you're ruining it for everybody. Like, stop it. I get it. Like you said, clicks and stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
We don't want to act like we're trying to be holier than thou, but if it was a case of a real demon, I mean, that's something that should be definitely handled privately. Yeah. And not something that should be broadcasted all over YouTube. That's something, especially when you're dealing with a person that has this issue, that just to us, we just find it in very poor taste.
Well, and it's also, from anything that I have seen, and when something really like that is truly involved, it's life altering for the person it's happening to. And, and that's just, it's really awful, the things that they go through. And so it's not something that you want to, have a TV show for. And I know some people that do have a, TV show, they have really good intentions and so I'm like, okay, good, you're helping people. But then there's, other people that you're just like, it's not entertainment. That's not funny. You know what I mean? Or not that they're trying to be funny, but you know what I'm saying? It's like serious.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's very serious.
Yeah, exactly. So Ty, this is interesting. I'm reading again off the website. It says, when you were first married, you guys experienced supernatural events that were undeniably to the point that I guess Mike, you nicknamed her Spooky. Can we talk about some of let's talk about some of those experiences, because I think that's, hey, Spooky, how you doing? That's a cute little nickname.
Well, I mean, a lot of things happened. But when we first got together, we were talking and we knew this was going to go serious. There's a lot of things Mike shared with me. Back then, he was really struggling with his faith and his belief in God. And I've always had my faith. I've always been 100% sure that there is a God. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind at all and in my heart. So I fell in love with somebody that wasn't quite sure, which for me, I kind of, I really fell in love with him, and I prayed about it. And for me, the Lord told me it's fine. Marry him. But when we were talking, we wanted to, we're older, wanted to get all the cards on the table kind of situation. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I know you struggle with your belief in God, but what are your thoughts on ghosts? People seeing ghosts, people talking to ghosts. what are your thoughts? And he was like, well, I've had childhood experiences and I'm open to it. I'm like, well, like, do you believe in it? And he's like, I'm not sure. He wasn't sure at that time. I'm like, well, how about your partner communicates with them, like, pretty much on a daily basis? And he was like, you could talk to my mom. And I'm like, no, not really.
Okay.
And that's how we kind of started talking about it. But actually, when we first got married, as soon as we said I do, we ended up, my father-in-law and I had our boys. I have 2 sons from Mike, and they were at my father-in-law's house, and Mike and I went back to our little house on Tybee. And we opened up the door to let our dog out, and you could literally feel something enter the house with us. Like something entered the house. And at the time, it was just really, really odd. Our dog would not, we had to drag him back in the house. He went out to pee, and he wouldn't want to come back into the house. Something was in the house. And as soon as that day happened, like, little things would start happening. My hairbrush would be missing. We'd find it outside in the common area. We lived in a little area that had like a couple apartments, a little area to sit outside. And we'd find my hairbrush outside. The coffee pot would turn on and off randomly. He would claim, or not, I should claim, he would say that he would have a full conversation with something in the bathroom. And all of a sudden he'd be like, where did you go? Where are you at? And I'm like, I've been in the kitchen the whole time, or in the front room. He's like, no, you were right here. So little things would be happening like that. Right. And then we started really arguing. We were constantly fighting, and we were at each other's throats. But when we would leave the property, we were fine. We would loving and get along and be sweet to each other. But as soon as we pulled into that parking lot again, our driveway, and opened up that gate to that common area, it was on. Even when we would fight, if I could go outside and scream, nobody would hear me. Not a single person would hear me yelling outside. We would lose time. We would have the lights flicker in odd ways. We'd have a candle that was burnt out at least 3 days in the trash can, and it would explode on us. I mean, it was just the oddest things. I mean, we were at the point where we didn't want to be with each other. I mean, it was just at that point where,
That's interesting. I have heard of those kind of spirits before.
Go ahead.
Well, we say it's spirit. Now we know that it was, that, demons are rare, but we do know that was the case. That was a demonic situation. We actually did have to take steps to remove it from us.
And we would lose time.
Well, things she's saying, I mean, one night we were sitting on the couch, and she's about the lights flickering. It wasn't so much a flicker. We heard this sound, and it totally sounded like an airplane was about to crash into our apartment. Or bungalow, I should say. It's, I mean, I swore that either was getting bombed or say, I mean, that's how loud it got. And then the sound went through the place we were in. When it went through, it made a sound I can't make the sound, I don't do it justice, but it kind of did a warm. And as it did that, the lights didn't flicker. They dimmed and then brightened back up again with the sound as it flowed through. And so that I mean, we both jumped up off the couch, just like, what in the world's going on here?
Yeah.
And so things like that, Now, mind you, this was during COVID. So we were spending a lot of time at home. So we were home for all this. So, we say these things, but these were actually spread out over the course of a good year. It wasn't like it's one thing after another. But the things that would happen was just undeniable. I mean, there was no logical explanation for the things that were happening.
We would lose hours.
That's
and
crazy.
Hours.
Yeah, when you said that was funny, because that's exactly what popped up in my mind was that sounds demonic, that doesn't sound normal, as a haunting. If there's a normal haunting,
Right.
Yes.
Another night, we were the same thing. We were sitting on the couch, right? And we're living at the beach at this time. We're literally a block from the ocean. But we started hearing wind chimes. No big deal. You're at the beach. Wind chimes. That's what you hear at the beach, right? And then they got louder and louder. Then it sounded like it completely surrounded well, we called it the shack. It was a buddy of mine that rented to us. It was an old shack he converted into just a little small little bungalow that we were renting from him. You know, it wasn't very large, but again, we were literally one block and we were standing in the sand, you know, so.
Yeah, nice.
But we're in this, and it sounded like the wind chimes completely surrounded, and it got so loud, we literally had to cover our ears. It was so loud. I mean, these are things that, you know, if I would experience it, okay, maybe I need to go to a psychiatrist to get it checked out.
Sure.
We're both experiencing these things at the same time and both reacting in the same manner. So it's just undeniable these things were happening. And things got really, really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one specific time we had just taken our youngest son to the airport, returned back home. And like I said, Mike and I, as soon as we got home, we were pretty much bickering. And we started bickering again. And I went to our little couch. And I was laying down, but all of a sudden I felt something like touch me, like rub my shoulders and touch me. And I looked up and it was our youngest son. And I sat up and I walked away. And I said, go away, go away, go away. And Mike was like, what? Well, who are you talking to? I'm not going away. I'm in my house. You can go over there. And I was like, no, I saw our youngest. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I was laying on our youngest lap on the couch and he was touching me, but it wasn't him. I mean, stuff like that would happen.
Well, like she was saying, when I was shaving and I could have sworn, I knew it was her standing in the doorway and I was talking to her. And like she said, that's when she came around and said, who am I talking to? And whatever that was vanished as soon as she turned on. And so this stuff, I mean, it's like, it's stuff that you hear and you go, oh, you know, if I heard somebody else telling me this before we experienced it, I go, there's no way that happened. That's insane. That's that. But after living it, that's why now I say, I know the paranormal exists. I know these things happen.
Yes.
You know, on our thing, we say Spirit Xperience. Right under it, we put, we believe you. Because we like to give people, you know, we like to say, tell us your stories, share with us. So, you know, we're not going to be the ones to go, oh, you're insane. We're going to say, okay, let's look into this further and see what may be going on.
Yeah,
because we've been there and done that.
I'll be going to bed, and he would say, like I said, it was so small, it was like a studio. He would say he saw something fall into bed with me, and when he finally saw what it was, he had opened up our front door, and that's when that thing stood right in front of it, and he froze in horror. I never saw Mike so scared in his life. I call him Michael. So scared in his life. I mean, he was frozen. I literally had to go over to him and like shake him and like have him focus on me, because the way he described his vision was what he saw. I wasn't fortunate.
Unfortunate enough, yes.
I wasn't. I'm going to say fortunate or unfortunate.
Yeah.
Whatever he described, I'm glad I didn't see it.
Yes.
But I did get some sense of smell around Mike, around the house when it did come forward. But what he saw, I mean, it frightened him to the core. He actually had to have his mom, I thank her every time, but his mom showed up to him and told him to get up.
You have to get up and fight this thing. I believe what I saw was an actual demon, and you don't want to see one. The best way I can describe it, are you familiar with what a golem is?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. It was a gold golem looking thing. And it was just sparkly in the eyes, you know, it wasn't red or anything. It was just kind of like electric. That's the way to describe it. And when I saw this thing, I literally just shut down because it just got me to my core.
That's terrifying.
It was very terrifying. It was, so, you know, it was all this stuff that happened and us actually dealing with this entity
together.
And then after we did that, that's when, you know, we started to find out, you know, I became very open to what she was telling me about spirits and whatnot. And so we kind of grew off of that.
Yeah. I picked up his Bible again and started.
Well, that's something I do want to relate. You know, we talk about all this stuff and you see it in the movies and all that kind of stuff, these big battles and everything.
Right.
Well, yes, you need to have that entity get away from you and leave you alone to give you a reprieve from it. But here's the part a lot of people probably don't want to hear. If you experience something like that, the way to keep it at bay is to walk a spiritual life. And that takes a lot of hard work. That's, you know, praying, studying, attending services, doing all these sorts of things to live a good spiritual life. Because if you don't, these things will come back, and they'll come back in number. They'll definitely come back in I believe that in the Bible, and Jesus said, you can cast out a demon, but if you don't make yourself right, he'll bring back 70 more with you and come back and operate again. And so that's the part, in these movies, they don't relate to you, that after the fact, you have a lot of work to do to keep these things away from you after that point.
Oh, yeah. And then even after we did it all and it was gone, its little minions or whatever pop its little head ever so often and chirp in our ears. And even when we moved to this house, there was things going on here off and on.
Still are.
But the more negative was here.
But this one we believe is the former owner of this house.
I'm talking about the negative spirit.
Oh, the negative. Okay, yes.
The negative spirit was here on and off. But again, I think at one point in time, we actually shook everything off, and then we started going back into, I want to say, selfish phase with each other. Like, I was doing my own thing, he was doing his own thing, and we were not coming together. So it started rearing its head back up, and we had to, again, sit down with each other, sit down and say, we want this marriage, we want each other, and we need to have our spiritual life combined with each other. I can't just be going on this path, and he can't just be going on this path. We have to come together. So,
yeah, the way I like to look at it is, we were very far apart from one another, but us trying to work on each other, that never works. We're never going to meet right here. It's just a mess, right? But what we started to do is both work on our spiritual life, on our relationship with God. And as we both had one common goal, what happened is we grew closer together, working for that common goal. And we were able to meet at the top. And it took a lot of work. I mean, this didn't happen overnight. But now, my goodness, I didn't know marriage could be like this. It's wonderful. It takes a lot of work.
I love it. Aaron, do you have any questions?
No,
more
questions?
Really
questions. I really agree with that. And I think even not being in the spiritual field or paranormal field, I think people should apply that in our lives regardless. Because I bet you there's a lot of marriages that don't realize that there's, that going on without that connection that you just said, because anyways, this isn't like a psychological, like, we're going to fix you show.
We're turning
but,
the marriage show.
If you do apply these in your life and you spiritually grow and heal yourself, then you're able to, connect with another person who also is healing themselves. But when you get sick people together, and especially if you start going on paranormal stuff, you better anoint yourself, man, because you probably will attract all that.
Now, we said relationships, but it's a good thing for paranormal teams to keep in mind.
Yes.
We're all working for this common goal, because we all know there's no personalities in the paranormal world, right?
Nah.
If we're all seeking the same goal, though, we can all work together.
That would be nice.
Right? While I was sharing with you, we've had some issue with the walking tours here in Savannah. And as a result, the local walking tours, we've all come together and we started what's called SALT, Savannah Association of Local Tours. And through that, we've all learned, before it's like, we're in competition with one another. We found, no, we're not in competition with one another.
Right.
We're in this together. In the relationships we've been building, this over the last month.
That's
relationships
wonderful.
we've been building is wonderful, because we all had the same goal. We're sticking it to the city, but it brought us together, and we've learned that we're all in this together. And so, just in any situation, we're all working towards a common goal. It helps.
And that is just great for the historical point of it, the preservation of the city, of the history, and, bringing people to the understanding of the paranormal world, so that, like we talked about earlier, that fear isn't there, and so that's really cool.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
John, sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, no, you can say something?
I missed the introduction, obviously, trying to bang my mic over here. I finally got it working. But so were you going to go into detail about the tour? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so that's a perfect segue. Being that you're married, and you talked about, you're working together on this tour. So tell me a little bit about the tour, because it's a little different. Just really quickly, when I was at Savannah, which I love and I highly recommend, I cannot recommend enough going to Savannah. It's a beautiful city, beautiful people, great food, great environment. Even if you go for a weekend, just go and just check it out. And the tour I went on, so I went to, really quickly, I went to the Sorrel Weed House.
So did I.
Yeah, okay. There you go. There you go. They would not let us in the cemetery, Mike and Ty. According to my guide at the time, this is like 5 or 6 years ago, that people had some really bad experiences with it. So you guys can talk about that. Then also we went downtown and, showed us some, like, everything's haunted. And this is my last point on this, which was absolutely hilarious. So I was just staring at, like, one of those Marriotts or whatever. Again, it's for business. And the manager there was this delightful lady, and she was telling me about all the history of it. And then I joked with her, because there's a Sonic right next to the hotel, and I went, "Oh, I suppose that Sonic is haunted." And she goes, "Honey, I wouldn't bet it isn't haunted." She started laughing, and I'm like, literally, because she told me stories, like, even here in this hotel, she has had experiences where the sliding doors would open, nobody would be there, and then she'd be like, "Oh, it's malfunctioning." And then she'd be like looking at the cameras, and she would see something on the cameras. And this is just a corporate Marriott down, away from the city. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, everything's haunted. She talked about her house is haunted. Her friend's house is haunted. So let's talk a little bit about that, about Savannah. And then let's get into your tour. And tell my spooky friends of what you guys maybe do a little differently, and what they should look forward to.
About this.
Well, now, Savannah, we claim to be, and a lot of people agree with us. I don't know. You mentioned something about California earlier. That's
they took over.
But usually,
I didn't do the poll.
If you look at these rankings, usually Savannah, St. Augustine, and New Orleans. Usually 1, 2, and 3 in some order in the most haunted cities in America, right? In Savannah, we just like to flat out say, no, we're the most haunted city.
I kind of agree that Charleston, I think, would have to be up there.
Yes, we're actually going to Charleston next month to do something, but we Savannah, it literally, we are a city built on our dead. I mean, you go like over by Wright Square, original cemeteries right there by that square, and right past that is where the Jewish cemetery was. And I'm sure you guys have seen the original Poltergeist, right? Remember what happened there? What they moved the tombstones, but what? Left the bodies.
Left the bodies.
So that's why we have there's like buildings built right on top of the cemetery. You go further down, like Taylor Square, formerly Calhoun Square. It's actually an African-American Civil War time cemetery. It's this square with houses around it. There's literally a cemetery right underneath there. A lot of people, you think Savannah and war, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Civil War, right? Yeah. Nothing really happened here in the Civil War. And Sherman King, he didn't burn Savannah down. And also, the only battle that took place in Savannah was out at Fort McAllister. It was a 30-hour battle. The North overtook it in that 30 hours and held it for the entirety of the Civil War. That's all that happened here in the Civil War. Revolutionary War, however, a lot of people don't know that Savannah's actually had the 5th bloodiest battle in the Revolutionary War in Savannah city limits. It was called the Siege of Savannah. 500 people were injured, 500 people were killed. And so, like, you went to the Sorrel Weed House. I'm sure they told you that was the British barracks during that war, and they also did surgeries right there. So you have that in the Sorrel Weed House. Yeah, we know some people at Sorrel Weed House. A real neat place to be. And so, in like the Marshall House there, that people had to go out. That was actually used. They bring Civil War soldiers back and do surgeries and amputees and all that right there in that. Marshall House you can go stay at. You got like 1790 and all the stories have to do with that, which, by the way, we investigated back in December, video to come. And so just Savannah, everywhere you go, you have this deep history, and you have all these tragedies that happen, and you have all these places where people are buried, and it's everywhere here.
You gotta think that Savannah is the first planned, in the United States, first planned city. So you got to think these people that came here originally came from the Europe, the state, you know, and they came here and they're generational. Their families are generational there. You know, they lived there for hundreds and hundreds of years. They come over here. They're still here. They're still generational. They want to know who has their house now. What's going on here? You know, and then we have a lot of Native Americans that were here prior. And they lost their lives. And some of them were very honored. And they got buried within the city. And other ones, they got buried in their mounds. But they have been discovered. You know, you got a lot of history within the city that, I mean, yes, there's history in other cities and other states, but because this was such a founding city and it was designed to be such a city that it just grew. And when it grew, there was no space for it to grow. So it just kept on growing on top of itself over and over again.
Not only that, I mean, you look at 1820, we had the Great Fire of Savannah, a third of the city burnt down. Also in 1820, we had the first outbreak of the yellow fever epidemic here. And so you have these things over and over again.
You know, and if you're in conspiracy, we have the first
Masonic Lodge.
That would be me.
Masonic Lodge number 1.
I'm the conspiracy theorist.
So, you know, our history is so deep, but if you look at our history, a lot of it revolves around things that be considered, you know, conspiracy theory, and a lot of it revolves around supernatural. If you really look at it, I mean, I'm sure you may be familiar with Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Too.
I mean, it leaves nothing to the imagination that Danny killed Jim Williams on that same rug he killed him on. The movie and book spell it out for you. They go, this is what we believe happened. Danny's vengeful spirit got to Jim, you know, because the protections were taken away because he refused to pay. In the book and movie, Minerva, in real life, her name's Valerie, refused to pay her anymore, so she removed her protections. This is just steeped in Savannah's history. You know, we really don't shy away from it at all. We really embrace the paranormal.
Yes.
Savannah.
Absolutely.
And so even the cemetery the cemeteries were either broken down, built on, or just partially destroyed because they went through so many hands. I mean, our headstones, some of them are broken up and placed on a wall. They have been vandalized and rescribed stuff on it. They've even been found on eBay. I mean, people have tried to sell the stones on eBay. And then, you know, you got one beautiful cemetery, but then 4 or 5 years later, even 10 years later, you know, the antebellum era came along. So then the high society people wanted more of a garden setting for their loved ones, more of that. So they tried to move the headstones or move the bodies. So some headstones are even doubled. You know, sometimes the loved ones were never even moved. You got dignitaries that were here. You got people that signed the Declaration of Independence that we're not sure if their hip bone is here or no, not here. There are so many things here. I mean, we got, you know, unfortunately we have, you know, the slave history in Savannah where there wasn't supposed to be slaves, but England wanted money and Savannah was going under and South Carolina was being amazed and having all this money. So then they allowed slavery. So we got all this rich, good history mixed in with all this dark history. You know, and a lot of people don't realize that slaves, especially during that era, the men, especially in the South, didn't have house rights. So they were they had to work for the owners, and then they were rented out to the city to do all the city's work, you know, and up to the age of 4, you could stay with your mom and dad, you stay with your mom inside the house if you were a boy, but at age 5, you were expected to go out and work with the men. You know, and then we have the hanging trees, and we have all these.
Yeah, it's just, there's just so many things here. And I wanted to ask, now you said the cemetery wasn't, are you talking about Colonial Park Cemetery there in Savannah?
Correct. Correct.
Maybe a storm or something came through beforehand, or?
How many years ago was this?
Well, one of the things I was told was, and I don't know to believe this or not, but people who entered the cemetery, either one or two things happened to them. One, they became really nauseous, almost to the point of they wanted to throw up, or they walked away with like scratches or something. And this is just according to when I took the guide aside and I was asking him, I'm like,
I'm
this is weird
of anything of that nature, but
I would say
okay,
yeah, but
I would say
yeah, you know, But at the same time, there is a lot of things that happen there. In fact, there's a spirit there that we communicate with when we're there.
A couple.
Yeah. And a lot of Revolutionary Time soldiers there. And there's a little girl there we communicate with.
And then we had that SL, what is it, baby?
Oh, SLS. Well, I'm sure now as paranormal investigators, I'm sure you think the apps are just hooey, right? And I do too. I agree. A lot of the apps that you use are just hooey. But I had the Ghost Tube SLS thing out. And I was sitting there, we was in the cemetery, and I was just going around just seeing stuff, picking up a lot of false things. But behind one of the benches where there was nothing behind it, I saw two stick figures in the Colonial Park Cemetery. They looked like they were boxing one another. And I told Katai, I said, look over here, don't look like two figures. She's like, yeah. And that's just being a smart aleck. I said, hey, you guys cut it out. And they did.
Wow.
They stopped and turned towards me. They looked at us for about 10 seconds, turned around and started boxing again. That's when I started promoting Ghost Tube SLS, because I was like, okay, that was interesting.
And I've had one experience, because we use our SLS all the time. Rarely get anything on it, which I find I like that, because if you got something every time, you'd be like, So rarely, but my mom's house, she lives in Virginia. Her house was built in 1740. And so it's really old, and it's got a lot of history. But there is a child in her house, and I feel it all the time. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to, this is the first time she let me investigate, by the way. And I've been, going there many, many, many years, and she was too scared to conjure something up. I don't know, what she was thinking. But anyways, I went upstairs to talk to this child where I felt that this child was hiding, and I had the SLS out, and it kept, the REM pod was dinging on the questions I was asking, and not everything, but it was very cool. And then I got this one child-sized figure pop out for maybe 3 seconds and then go away. And I was just like, thank you so much. And then they lit up the thing one more time, the REM pod one more time, and then that was it. They were like, all right, I'm done. See ya. And I was just like, well, thank you for talking to me, and you're welcome to hang out, just not when I'm sleeping, So it was a really neat experience, because I had told my mom, for the longest time, there's a child, that likes to play. And then we come to find out there was a child that died in the house. And so I was like, interesting. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know that my mom was telling me about, and it was really neat. That's the only time I've ever had the SLS, but sorry to get off track.
Yeah.
No, we love hearing about this. Yes.
Park, yes, people have got in touch. There was about 9 years ago, news person in Chicago, a video of something happening.
I encourage everyone to go on YouTube and look up Colonial Park Cemetery Ghost Boy.
Yeah.
Colonial Park Cemetery Ghost Boy is an actual person who was here in 2008, I believe, from Ohio. And they were down here visiting. They were in the Colonial Park Cemetery during the day. They weren't on a paranormal investigation. There's a tourist filming their trip to Savannah. And what he called, and this is an actual news broadcast out of Ohio that's showing this on the YouTube. You can look it up. But he caught the shadow figure of a little boy running in between some trees. You see the little boy jump 10 feet up in the air, land on the ground, then drop down and completely vanish. This was on the news, right? So, and they actually they sent it out to some professionals to analyze the video. And what they came back and said is, they said, we're not going to say there's a ghost on that video. We're going to say whatever's on that video is actually on the video. It has not been altered anymore.
Wow. Speaking of that, just really quick, speaking of that, when I went past Colonial Cemetery, I got out my cell phone because I was going to record, being, in paranormal, see if I can pick something up, and my phone wouldn't work. Just would not work. The closer I got to the gate, it would not work. And then I pull it away, and they would kind of work. And then so I get back to my hotel room, and it's fine, no problem.
That's
that's interesting. And I've had that happen to me before. Numerous times happened to me before.
I like what you say, though. When we are on our tours, I never go, oh, that's a ghost. I say, that's very interesting. But I let them know. I don't say it's very interesting. That's supernatural. I like
I love Savannah. It's one of my favorite places. And so when I next come down there, we have to do something. For sure.
Yes, absolutely. We'll talk after the fact.
I actually got married down there in one of the I don't even know what it is. I'd have to show you a picture, but it was like a gate, and hopefully it was not an old cemetery. But you like stepped inside this big iron gate, and it was just beautiful garden. Anyways, we got married in there, and then and then we went to Alligator Soul after. Oh God, the grits and shrimp, y'all. Oh, when you go down for the ghost tour, go for the food. I'm telling you. And then I did the soror week house, which I got lucky on that one because usually there was like 20, 30 people per tour. It was me and 2 other women that turned up, and we had the whole place to ourselves the whole night. Oh, it was amazing. And then I went to the Midnight and Garden Evil place and a bunch of other places. And we actually did go on a tour. And so that's what I was going to get to the next question about your tours. We went into a bus though, and it had these window things because it was kind of chilly and rainy, so we didn't get to see crap. No, but we went by all the places, so it was still pretty cool. But we went to the pirate place, and then I went and did a little thing down in the bottom. But this was when I was sort of really getting into all of this. So yeah, I'm really, really interested to hear about your tour because I had a really fun time when we went down there. My husband was not interested, by the way. He was like, yeah, I'm sleeping. I'm going golfing. You do whatever you want to do.
As y'all can see, we're very passionate about the history and the folklore of Savannah. We love it. We embrace it. We like to learn as much as we can about it. We do like to get with other people and talk about these things, other tour companies and historians.
About the history.
Yeah, because we try to make sure our historical facts are historical facts. And even with our folklore story, we try to make sure there's much in line as the original tellings of these stories as we can possibly get. We want to try not to say anything that we know is flat out false. Now, we do share one story that we do qualify it and go, this is complete folklore. There's no history we can find about it, but it's a good story. So we share the story. So we do those sort of things. We love sharing the history. We love sharing the folklore, the ghost stories. We love sharing these things. But our overall thing is we like people to have experiences with our spirit of Savannah. These spirits that we feel we have grown a relationship with over the last 5 years. Will they show up every time? No, they're spirits. They're going to do what they want to do. They're not on the company payroll, right? So, we can't guarantee anything. But we can say on every tour we've done today, we have had some experiences that are kind of unexplainable. Excuse me. What we like to do is we do have equipment I bring out at various places, real paranormal equipment in certain places. But usually with the guests, what we do is we hand them an EMF meter and a pair of spirit rods, dowsing rods to use and demonstrate how it all works. And in case like our tour, what we think sets our tour apart. Yes, there are other tours out there that have EMF meters. There's tours out there with spirit rods and all the gadgets. They're out there. But what I think makes ours stand out just a little bit more is now some of those I know that do get some interaction. But we try to go a little beyond. Just like last night on our tour, we have a little doll. Are y'all familiar with the Overnight channel on YouTube?
Sure.
They're more entertaining than real, but they're entertaining.
Okay.
Ghost hunters. Matt Rife is one of them.
I'll go look it up.
Yeah. But they actually went to the Warren's Occult Museum, not this past Halloween, but Halloween before. And they live streamed them being in there. 2023. Yeah, 2023. They were in there and they live streamed the entire time they were in there. They're doing it for Feed America. They were getting some money for Feed America. And they actually brought with them 666 Raggedy Ann dolls to take in the Warren's Occult Museum to spend time with the real Annabelle. And of course, they were selling these to make money for charity. And of course, I bought one, right? Because I thought, this is me, And we can go on our tour and go, look, we got a little Annabelle doll.
I wasn't happy about it.
But it's a good cause.
Unfortunately, not. But we have that. We like to, there's both, we give 2 different tours, and the tours and both tours involve a little girl on each of the tour. And then when we were at this one location where the little girl is, I took out the Annabelle doll and told them, where we got it from. And what Ty had them do, we had 2 young ladies that was holding the spirit rods. There was another young lady, Ty gave her the Annabelle doll and said, please step behind them and choose one hand and put it in that hand and hold it there and don't show anybody which hand it's in. And then with the rods, Ty asked the young lady there, little Katie, asked her to point the rods. If it's in the young lady's right hand, point it to the right. If it's in her left, pointing it to the left. They both turned to the right, and it was in her right hand. And we like to do this sort of things because a lot of people start to think that maybe subconsciously they're moving these rods, but there's no way they could have known the answer to which hand that doll was in. And it answered properly and answered pretty immediately also. So these are the things we want our guests to have a better understanding of the spirit world. And we also want them to know it's like we was discussing, it's not something that is frightening. It's just something that is, and it's something that can be a good experience. It can be a fun experience with these things. And so that's something we really focus on, is trying to share this with our guests.
Yeah, like Mike said, we like to put it in their hands. Yeah. They're having the experience. I'm not holding the rods. And we like them to ask the question. So they can ask any question they want of that spirit. And as long as the yes or no are pointing in the direction, they're getting the response.
That's cool.
You know,
yeah, so it's very interactive.
Now, we've had, like Mike said, with Jim Williams.
Midnight Garden.
If you ever read the book or watched the movie, you know how Jim is. Yeah. I have made a comment once before why I had offended Jim, and he did not talk to us. I mean, we had activity going all over the place, and as soon as I said what I said, everything stopped. The rods stopped moving, the EMF meters stopped going, and it took us a couple. I literally had to bring him a gift and apologize to him, and then he slightly moved the rods, and then finally we had to ask, "Have you forgiven Ty yet?" And he finally said yes. Because, I mean, he can hold a grudge, and I really did say something I wasn't supposed to say about him, and he was not happy.
Yeah, spirits can do that. I have had that happen before, where I accidentally pissed him off.
Well, so two quick questions before we wrap up here. Sure. One, have you ever had someone on tour which is a total skeptic? Like, I'm just doing this because my wife dragged me here. I don't believe in anything. And then at the end of the tour, they go, "Oh my God, you know, this is real." Anything like that?
It happens often. You know, what we say, if we have skeptics on the tour, because we ask who believes in the paranormal, and we, if somebody says they're skeptic, we go, "That's perfectly fine. We're going to share the history. We're going to have share the folklore. We just want to make sure you have a good time. That's our main goal. Everybody have a good time." I was like, we'll say, but, you know, maybe be a little open to the possibility of maybe something going on. And we've had quite a few at the end of the tour. Some that just flat out said, "Okay, I'm a believer now." And others that says, "Okay, well, I've opened my mind up a little bit more that this might be a possibility." And we love it when that happens because, you know, now, do you have some that just was Debbie Downers from the beginning and stayed that way all the way through? You know, if a ghost just materialized in front of them and slapped them, they go, "Oh, well, that was my mind." You know, so you have those, right? I mean, you can't please everybody, but there are many, many people that started off as a skeptic, and I really like it with, you know, when they say they're a believer, I think that's really cool. But I like the ones that say, "My mind's a little more receptive to this being a possibility."
There you go.
The ones that crack me are the ones that have actually said they're non-believers or I'm not sure. They've got interaction and finally said, "Okay, I've had enough," and handed us the rods like, "I'm done."
Yeah.
Well, one thing interesting, if you ever met somebody that says they're a complete skeptic, one question I've learned to ask them is, have you ever had an experience that you think may have been paranormal? And more often than not, they do have a story that they have discounted. You know, there's some that go, "No, never in my life," whatever. And I think they're kind of not being truthful. But at the same time, you know, just ask the skeptic, say, "Has anything, you know, that maybe could have been paranormal?" Like I said, more often than not, and I'm sure, you know, I like to ask people about their stories. Almost everyone has a paranormal story.
Yeah, absolutely. There's thousands out there that we didn't even know of. So the next question is in honor of Erin because she had a podcast where she would ask this question: what's one of the silliest or funniest things that happened on tour? Erin, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. because Aaron always used to look at like some of the silly stuff that happens on paranormal investigations, which I absolutely loved because we don't talk about that. We talk about scary. We don't talk about silly, funny.
I know, and I am going to eventually get my podcast back up and going. It's just been really crazy at my end, and my personal life. You know, my husband broke his back recently, and it's just it's been a lot, and so I'm his caretaker right now. So I just haven't gotten my shit together, basically, but I will. So my podcast it's called Aaron's Supernatural Shenanigans, and we just focus on the funny stuff that goes on because there's plenty of that. Or when you're doing an investigation and you accidentally scare the crap out of your partner, and you don't mean to, but it's so funny, and then you catch it on video, and then you get those 4 a.m. gigglies, and you just laugh at the most ridiculous things, and you're like, why am I laughing? I don't know what's happening right now. And which we find that actually kind of wakens a lot of the spirits up sometimes. But anyways, that's what my podcast is about. And so if you want to elaborate on some of your funnier stories, we'd love to hear about that.
Well, we were at 1790 and we were doing our own investigation, and we had actually stepped out right before investigation to kind of like walk around the block and see the block. I mean, we've been there doing tours before, but just walking around. Well, there's a object in one of the windows that highlights.
I can tell by his laugh that this is going to be good.
It's a mannequin. If you've been to Savannah at 1790, the mannequin that sits in the window of Anna Powell, that's the mannequin. So we're investigating room 204, the room everything is supposed to take place in, right?
So Mike and I are being goofballs. He had me take a picture of him with Anna, and then I went to go take a picture, and there was one of the horse tours coming through when the vehicles with their guests, and that curtain moved, and I was there. That poor lady down there. I literally thought I saw her soul lift up and put back in her body. Excuse me. I felt so bad. You could hear her screaming. The driver stopped and everything, and everybody looked at her, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
So
I love it.
Savannah, touched a little bit.
Yeah, convinced that Anna's mannequin's alive.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That is so funny.
We've had people try to rods and have a sucker in their mouth and spit it out, or chew a piece of gum, and they're doing it and then choke on it, and we're like, please don't die.
Or one of my favorite things is, you get people, it always cracks me up. You'll get it every so often. Somebody have the rods and they'll start doing things and they'll go, holy shit. That's one.
Yes, we've had that.
Oh my God.
Well, it's something that is funny to us, at least, is you'll have people, at the end, Ty gives a cleansing, close the session down, use some white sage, do a cleansing, leave our spirits here with us, right? And so we'll have we've had people that'll say, she'll ask, do you want a cleansing? And they'll say yes or no. And we've had people say no, get in their car, drive around the block, come back, get out of the car, and go, yes, we'll take it.
We're not bringing this home with us. Thank you. Yep. That is awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
And we were actually, come and start the tour, and then all of a sudden leave the tour.
Oh,
they don't want.
That's not a fun.
Well, that's not.
But we've had people that just did not like what we were doing. We talked about that a little at the beginning. You're communicating with the dead. That's against my religion. But again, you read the website. Did we make it clear that that's what we're doing?
Yeah,
I think we do.
Did you come? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'll definitely have to have you on the podcast once I get everything up and running again. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So
this was amazing. Mike and Ty, you guys were great. I highly recommend, all my listeners, you out to Savannah, please go and take their tour, because what you guys do is very rare. And like you said, too, you're working together with other tour groups. So you want to help preserve this, because people don't understand. if this goes away, you're going to be stuck with the corporate end, unfortunately, which is never good. Trust me, everybody knows that. When it comes to corporation, it becomes, just a, I don't know what you want to call it, a farce.
Like you're saying, just let me add, we'd really like you to go on our tour, but if you choose another tour, please just make sure it's a local tour. That's all I'd ask. Please make sure it's local.
Yeah, this is the people that love their city, that learn the history, that take pride in it, that clean the neighborhoods, that watch out for the neighborhoods, that watch out for anybody outside walking their dog. We care. Yeah. This is us. Yeah. We put our hearts in
this. This is our city.
Yes.
We love our city.
Yeah. Yeah. So, tell my spooky friends how they get a hold of you, what's coming up next, so they can, if they're in the area, like you said, go to your tour or one of the other tours and see how great Savannah is.
We are here. This is easier to do.
Okay.
If that's in focus there, is it too shiny?
I can put all the links and stuff up there, but hopefully
Spirit
people can see it.
Xperience with the X. There's no E in front of the X because
we're
Gen Xers, right? So
another reason to go on the tour, David.
No E, X Xperience. And you can Google Spirit Xperience LLC. It'll pull it up, or go to spiritxperience.com. That'll pull it up also. We're on most of the major social media sites. So just type in Spirit Xperience and you should be able to find us. And feel free, our phone number's listed there, or emails there. Feel free to reach out to us, ask us questions or anything that you may need.
And you can reach out to us for any question. When you're visiting the city, if you want, ideas of where to stay, what to eat, anything else, historical tours, we'll send you in the right areas. If you're having issues in your home or you're just curious about the paranormal, we can also, talk about that. If we don't know the answers, we'll reach out to people that do. We want to be there for everybody.
Yeah, I love it. Again, thank you so much, Mike and Ty. You guys were great. This was an amazing experience. If I get out to Savannah, I'm definitely going to reach out to you guys, and I'm sure Aaron, you probably feel the same way.
I can't wait to get back down there. That's a fact. Oh, my gosh.
That's
absolutely
beautiful city. You guys will love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And, I'd love to have you guys on the podcast again. And then when Erin gets her podcast up and running,
yes, absolutely,
definitely come on hers, because she does an amazing job too. And I absolutely love her and love her podcast. So again, thank you guys again. And we will hopefully see you guys around soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
In a world where true crime meets the supernatural and the unexplained.
Where true crime and chills go hand in hand.
Welcome to Total Conundrum, the podcast that explores the dark, the eerie, and the downright mysterious.
Join us as we embark on a spine-tingling journey through the mysteries that keep you up at night.
We're diving deep into true crime stories, uncovering the most baffling cases, and exploring the twisted minds behind them.
But we don't stop there. We're also exploring the paranormal, from haunted houses to cryptids and all the creepy things that go bump in the night. Get ready for some supernatural thrills.
And what sets us apart? Prepare for a dose of dark humor as we navigate through the creepy and bizarre.
We've got it all. Bone-chilling tales, banter, and mind-boggling conundrums. You won't know whether to scream or laugh.
So grab your favorite snack, turn down the lights, and join us for a roller coaster ride of true crime and the supernatural, sprinkled with a bit of comic banter.
Stay curious, stay captivated, and let's dive into the world of Total Conundrum.
Now available on your favorite podcast platform. Get ready to be captivated, creeped out, and cracked up with Total Conundrum. Thanks for hanging out with us here at Total Conundrum. Please make sure to check out our website and blog at totalconundrum.com for news, upcoming events, merch, bloopers, and additional hysteria. You never know what will pop up, so be sure to follow along. If you want to show your support for Total Conundrum and gain access to all of our bonus content, please visit our Patreon page. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The links are available in our show notes. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, or stories to share, please email us at contact@totalconundrum.com. Episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate the love. Keep on creeping on, mother cluckers.